In 1974, a farmer digging a well in central China struck something hard beneath the soil. He expected water. Instead, he helped uncover one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history: an entire underground army, frozen in silence for more than 2,000 years. Thousands of life-sized soldiers, horses, chariots, and weapons were waiting below the earth, as if they were ready for battle the moment someone opened the door. But this was not a lost city, and it was not a real army buried after a war. It was something even stranger. It was the Terracotta Army, built to guard the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. And once you learn why it was made, the discovery becomes even more unbelievable. To understand the Terracotta Army, we need to go back to a time when China was not one united country, but a land of competing kingdoms. Wars were constant. Alliances changed quickly. Power was temporary and rulers rose and fell fast. Out of this chaos came one man who changed history forever: Qin Shi Huang. He became king as a teenager and went on to conquer the rival states one by one. By the time he was done, he had unified much of China for the first time. He standardized writing, weights, measurements, and even the width of carts on roads. He also began linking existing walls into what would later become the Great Wall. He was brilliant, ruthless, and obsessed with control. And he was obsessed with immortality. Ancient records say Qin Shi Huang searched desperately for a way to live forever. He sent expeditions looking for magical elixirs and trusted alchemists who claimed they could defeat death. But even as he hunted for eternal life, he prepared for death in an equally grand way. He ordered a tomb complex so enormous that it would mirror his empire below the ground. The Terracotta Army was only part of that plan. This underground world was designed like a palace for the afterlife. The emperor's tomb itself has still not been fully opened, partly because archaeologists want to protect it, and partly because ancient texts describe deadly traps and possible damage inside. What has been explored, though, is already astonishing. The soldiers were placed in vast pits near the tomb, standing in formation as if protecting their emperor from enemies in the next world. And here's the part that catches almost everyone by surprise. No two soldiers are exactly alike. Their faces, hairstyles, armor, and expressions vary. Some seem calm, some look stern. Some appear older, some younger. It's as if each figure was modeled as an individual person. For a long time, people assumed the army must have been mass-produced using a simple mold. But the reality is more impressive. Archaeologists believe the bodies were made from sections and standardized parts, then assembled and finished by hand, allowing for remarkable variety in the faces and details. So how big is this army? Very big. The first pit alone holds thousands of figures arranged in military order. There are infantrymen, archers, officers, horses, and battle chariots. Nearby pits contain more figures, including cavalry and support units. It was not just decoration. It was a symbolic military force, built to continue serving the emperor after death. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. The figures are life-sized, and many were once brightly painted. Today, most of that color has faded or peeled away after exposure to air. But traces remain. reminding us that this army was once far more vivid than the gray statues people see in museums and documentaries. Even the weapons tell a story. Many were real bronze weapons, including swords, spears, and crossbow parts. Some were coated in ways that helped preserve them for centuries. That has led researchers to ask a fascinating question. How did ancient craftsmen create such a large project with such precision? Evidence suggests the Qin state had a highly organized system of labor. The army was likely made by teams of craftsmen working under strict supervision. Inscriptions found on some pieces may have recorded workshop names or responsible workers, showing a level of quality control that feels surprisingly modern. This was not random art. It was state power turned into stone, clay, and bronze. But there is still mystery. Why build something so massive for the afterlife? The answer lies in ancient beliefs. In Qin-era China, the world of the dead was not completely separate from the world of the living. A ruler's status did not end at death. If anything, it continued. An emperor needed protection, servants, and authority in the next world just as he had in this one. The tomb was meant to preserve power forever. And yet, for all its grandeur, the Terracotta Army also reveals something deeply human: fear. Qin Shi Huang ruled an empire, but he could not rule death. He built a tomb full of guardians because he did not know what awaited him. He searched for eternal life because he could not accept the end. The army standing underground is not only a symbol of imperial strength. It is also a monument to human uncertainty. The biggest revelation is this: the Terracotta Army is not just about one emperor. It is about a civilization at a turning point. It shows how far ancient China had advanced in organization, art, engineering, and state power. It also shows how rulers tried to use those achievements to defeat the one thing no empire can conquer. More than 2,000 years later, the soldiers are still standing watch. They never marched into battle. They never saw the sun once they were buried. Yet today they speak louder than any written record. They tell us that the first emperor of China was not only a conqueror, but a man who wanted his legacy, his authority, and maybe even his life itself to last forever. And somehow, in a field outside Xi'an, his buried army did exactly that. It waited. It was forgotten. And then, by pure accident, it rose again to become one of the most incredible archaeological discoveries ever made.